How's it going, everybody? A really quick video to show you how you can save the runners from your strawberry plants. So basically yesterday I cleaned up my strawberry plants. So these are strawberries that were planted into the tunnel here in the springtime, and what they've done over the summer months is that they've put out runners and they've basically rooted into the ground all in that area where I planted them. So to show you what runners are basically, and I've tidied them all up now to try and get it back to the original. So essentially, a runner is this guy that comes off the mother plant. So that's the plant that I planted earlier in the spring. And when it goes out a little bit like this, it sets down roots into the ground and you get basically a new plant. So what some people do is they'll put a pot underneath it in that area, and then when it is fully rooted, and you can't take them off until they're fully rooted if you want to create a new plant, but when they're fully rooted, they'll put a pot underneath it, let it fully root in, then they'll cut off this lead and they'll already have their plant in their pot. Now I don't do that. I take them off sort of in the dormant season. So you can see now the leaves are starting to die off. This plant is starting to go into dormancy. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pot it up and I'll have a good strong plant for next spring. As you can see, there's actually two here, so those guys can be separated. There's possibly even a third one there that's tiny, maybe not worth having. But this one here is a good strong plant, right? So we're going to take off all of those, even some of those big outer leaves. And we're essentially going to leave it like this, right? And what we're going to do is, the next stage that I'm doing is I'm dipping it into mycorrhizal fungi. But you don't have to do that. It does create this, you see this white, these really white fibrous roots. I used this when I planted in the springtime, and mycorrhizal will spread through the ground. But all of these really fibrous, good quality roots are as a result of that. So I always use it when I'm planting anything, but you don't have to do that. You'll get away without it. So essentially, this is the solution. It looks like wallpaper paste for all the world. I'm just dipping it in it. A little bit of a shake off. You see there, so that's all fully coated now. And that will give this plant a really great chance. It'll basically create a much bigger root zone underneath it. Means that it'll be less susceptible if you get dry periods and whatnot. So that's ready to be potted now. I have, depending on what size plant I have, I'm going to pot into 3 different size pots. Now this one is quite big, so I'm going to put it into a 1 litre pot. This is ordinary multi-purpose compost with some seaweed meal mixed through it. I'm going to fill it up 3/4 ways, make a little bit of a hole in the middle. Now this is quite a big root zone, so I'll need a good size hole. And then just popping it in, give it a push down, small bit of compost back in on top, and firm it up. I'll give that a little bit of a water now just to settle it in. But essentially that plant for next spring, it'll go into dormancy, or it's going into dormancy at the moment. But next spring that will burst out, and that will be a really strong, healthy plant for next spring. And that one, say planted next February or March, will definitely have fruit on it, you know, in June and July. So a really easy way to save runners off your plant. The mother plants that I put in, which were last spring, you're really only going to get 2 to 3 good years fruiting out of them, and then they'll start to deteriorate and they get a little bit weaker over time. So it's good to save the runners at least once, if not every year, because that'll give you new plants to plant in when the mother plants start to fade a little bit, and that'll mean you'll always have constant strawberries. I hope that helped. Until the next time, happy gardening.